Boom, and we live. Rooted in Sports
Just
Monday.
like that, man.
Rooted
Once
in
again,
Sports.
it's on.
Rooted in Sports. Motherfucking Monday. I'm excited to be back, man.
Oh yeah,
I,
per usual, man. Live on location.
man, it's been some crazy stuff to happen. Like it's been some crazy topics popping up the last few days.
Oh yeah.
With football and basketball, and I know we had a very exciting Rooted in Sports community on Saturday, so I'm interested in kind of bringing that energy into today's session.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's do it, man. Obviously Kyler Murray got paid, and
Look
we'll
at
definitely be discussing our feelings about that. You know,
Rose eyes.
um, as usual, you know what I'm saying, we're going to continue with our preview for the 2022 NFL season. So this week we'll be previewing the NFC least, not not the NFC East, in particular, obviously Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders. I guarantee you I'm going to say Redskins like 4 times.
And I'll be honest,
And the
it's gro-
Giants.
it's growing on me a little bit. I'm getting used to it. I
It's,
didn't
it's
like it. It was corny when it first came out, but then I'm like, I'm kind of it's starting to roll off the tongue a little bit more natural. So
I promise you, I'm sure I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say Redskins at least three or four
I'll
times.
tell you this. I'm more used to calling them the Washington Commanders than I am calling them the Las Vegas Raiders, because I still say
Oh
Oakland.
yeah.
Exactly.
They're gonna be Oakland forever, bro.
Forever, right? Oakland, no, they're in Vegas now. So yeah, but no, yeah, we'll dive into that, and then somebody got paid in the NBA, and then a owner, a popular owner, made some very interesting comments about the luxury tax in the NBA, and he got fined for it, right? So you can't just be
big
going
fine
on,
too.
you can't just be going on air. You just can't put it on wax. Just be saying anything about the luxury tax and things of that nature. So we'll jump into that, but obviously first let's go ahead and get into this intro, and let's give you guys what you pay so much money for, right?
And once again, we are back.
We are back.
I'm definitely excited about this here episode, man. I know it's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be good for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun because well, first of all, I'm excited because football is ramping back up. So I've had to stay like I don't know, I'm like Jeepers Creepers, like I've had to hibernate for like X amount of time. And now I'm ready to bust out and just kill a gang of motherfuckers. That's where I'm at right now. But football season is near, and these
training camps have begun.
Mm-hmm. Training camps have begun. Guys are getting contracts. Guys are potentially holding out. Right.
I was just gonna say it's gonna be interesting to see some of these holdout situations that are going to occur.
Oh yeah, and it's coming, especially after this individual. Obviously, we're about to talk about. You just mentioned them. Kyler Murray just got a brand new shiny contract. My feelings and my thought process on Kyler Murray, but I'm sure obviously the fans are going to get to hear it. But first, I want to hear your perspective on Kyler Murray getting his new contract.
So for those that don't know, he signed 5 years, 230 mil, 160 mil guaranteed, which is obviously the second largest guaranteed amount behind Deshaun Watson, who we've discussed numerous times. I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 about this. And the reason I say that is because, okay, flat out, do I think that Kyler Murray is worth this amount? No, I do not. If you had me to name my top 10 quarterbacks, he'd probably be right on the outside. He'd probably be 11, 12, 13. He'd probably be outside of that. But I guess for me, the reason why I'm kind of 50-50 on this is because I look at it from the Arizona Cardinals standpoint, and I think, well, what what are the options that they have? You know, because okay, we all know some of the cons on him. We all know he tends to start fast, and because he's so small over a 16 and now 17 game season, his body tends to wear down, and his production begins to decline. Um,
Definitely.
my bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. I don't know. It sounded a little. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
can hear
was hearing a little something in my headphones. Sorry, but
you.
yeah, like I was saying, over the second half of these seasons, you start to see him kind of take a decline. I think a lot of that has to do with him being so small and him trying to continue to take a lot of the wear and tear of a 16 or now 17 game season. The same goes with last year. You know, we seen them jump out to a great start. You seen him possibly you could argue one could argue first half of the season he was right there in an MVP discussion.
He was.
And then the second half of the season came along, and once again, he tailed right off. Now, from the Arizona Cardinals standpoint, it's kind of like, you know, they're at an impasse. I just don't know what they could have done but pay him, because at the end of the day, you know, say whatever you want about him, but their win total has increased every year since he's been there. You know, no matter what we want to say about him, their win total has increased every year since he's been there. And last year, although he came up very small in the playoffs, although you can argue it was one of the worst first playoff performances from a quarterback that we can remember in recent history.
Probably.
He
Yeah,
did he did get them to the playoffs last year. So whether the Cardinals want to admit it or not, their trajectory is heading up. You know, if we looking at it statistically, if we looking at it by wins, their trajectory is heading up. So I mean, I kind of think they was in a catch-22, and then considering that Deshaun Watson just got all that money, and I think that's the thing here. I think the Cleveland Browns just kind of they really kind of messed some things up. It was kind of like that Christian Kirk signing at wide receiver. How it just kind of reset the market. And now that Deshaun Watson signing has reset the market, because every quarterback coming up now is going to say, well, hey, if this dude can get that with, if I'm not mistaken, he has one career playoff win. If he can get that after he's missed an entire season and possibly going to miss half, if not all of this season, then all these other quarterbacks.
What am I worth?
Exactly.
Could you imagine? Like, let's not even talk about Lamar Jackson, because we know his payday is coming.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine being Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, they're sitting here like if they're sitting pretty, they're like, man, I'm gonna get 250 million guaranteed. Maybe
seriously.
even 3. Exactly.
No, seriously though.
So it's getting absurd and it's getting ridiculous. So
because Lamar is going to reset the market again. He has to.
So now that you allow Kyler Murray to get this contract, Lamar Jackson's is okay. So this
and
is
and let me say this here too. Now, and I was checking them out. I was doing a little research earlier, and it hit me. Now it's going to get really interesting for them, because I didn't even realize DeAndre Hopkins could miss the first 6 to 8 games of next season.
Well, now, I know he got suspended for 6.
So granted, he's going. I mean, they did go out and get Hollywood Brown. You know what I'm saying, but he's not. You know, he came there to really be that number 2 guy, possibly. You know what I'm saying. Right. So now
deep threat, stretch the field.
Exactly. So now you're going to be really dependent on him, really dependent on Zach Ertz, you know what I'm saying, to really be those main key targets for him. So now he's going to have to prove his work, because expectations are on him now.
So, okay. So I'm it sucks that I'm such a big football fan, because I have to see this. I can't be one-sided or one-track minded when it comes to viewing this thing. Because you both know I'm very critical of Kyler Murray, because I've watched people. There are still people, analysts and popular voices that put him in their top 10, and I don't think he's that. Um, we look at the trajectory of which Arizona has went. Now, granted, he's the best quarterback they've had since Kurt Warner. I mean, we can't
Yeah.
argue about that, right? But I look at not even this year. I look at people. Okay, they went to the playoffs this year, but people forget in 2020, the NFC West was I don't want to say it was dumpster fire, but it was probably in the worst condition that it's been in the past 5 to 6 years. San Francisco was just coming off of that Super Bowl; they were decimated with injuries. The Rams fell just shy short. If I'm not, I think they just missed the playoffs, or if they did, they lost in the wild card round. But they weren't very dominant. That was Jared Goff's last year there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost as if, and obviously Seattle was good, but you knew that Seattle wasn't going to win long term. That was that year where Russell Wilson was just going off first 8 weeks, and defensively they weren't very good exactly.
Let Russ cook.
But you're watching the first half of that season, and you're like, hey, if there's ever a time for Arizona to not only go to the playoffs but win this division, it's now. And they probably as a collective had the best roster in that division, healthy wise.
True.
And they start off hot. You know, they won a lot of big games, and then down the stretch they just falter. And the funny part is they get swept by that San Fran team that was bad, that was decimated by injuries. And those were actually some of Kyler Murray's worst games against an injury decimated San Francisco team. And now was his chance. To me, obviously he was going into what was it, year 2.
Yeah.
That was his chance to really, okay, I'm that guy. I can go to the playoffs, and who knows, maybe even possibly win a playoff game that year.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't able to do it. So when I tell people, even though Kyler Murray is the best that they've had, there are clearly limitations. He clearly has limitations from a leadership standpoint, and he still has some maturing to do, not only in the locker room but in his game. I watched an interview with Jordan Palmer. He was on the Herd. He had a really, really good interview. But he talked about watching Kyler Murray and his game. And, obviously we see all these hits that he takes, but it's because he runs around and he likes to do a lot of backyard football stuff. And this isn't college. This is the NFL where you got, I mean, let's be honest. We just watched Devontae Wyatt, and we just watched freaking what's the kid that went number 1 overall from Georgia? We just watched these guys run 4.45s at 275, 280.
Jordan Davis.
No,
you talking about DT?
Yeah, but no, but you got the defensive end, the outside linebacker that went number 1 overall to Jacksonville. It was a
Walker.
Trayvon Walker, right?
Yeah.
So the NFL is transformed. So a lot of the things that he's used to doing, that he was used to doing at the college and even the high school level, because some people consider him the greatest high school quarterback of all time, he just can't do. So there's definitely some maturing to do. Now, on the other end, and you know me as a valid Cowboys fan who's watched both of my quarterbacks over the last 20 years get talked about like complete dogs. I always make this argument. Who are you going to find better?
Yeah, exactly.
And as unfortunate as it is, I drive this home every single time. People don't understand or realize how difficult it is to find a competent quarterback in the National Football League. It's hard. Guys come in and get drafted number 1 overall and fail. They do it. It happens once every 3, 4, 5 years. We had that. What was that? Was it the 2011, 2012 quarterback draft class with Jake Locker, Christian Ponder, Blaine Gabbert, and none of these guys are nowhere to be found. Well, Blaine Gabbert's he's a backup. And
fail.
Yes, and these guys, yeah.
Seriously,
like that's the reality of this thing. So it's very hard to be successful as a quarterback. So when you find one that at a very minimum you can win with, then you gotta rock with them. So for that statement alone, they had to pay him. I think for me, I'm just upset with how Kyler Murray handled it. I felt like it came across as very bratty. Very bratty.
And then you could possibly be sending a bad sign because you've signed a guy like that in hopes that he's going to mature.
and I still think, and even when I watched his interview, the press conference where he got his contract, I guess because I'm very big on presence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like that with all quarterbacks. To me, presence matters. How they present themselves to the media, how they carry themselves, because you want your quarterback to just, how can I say, you want them to exude confidence and uprightness, and you want your quarterback to be a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He just looked very immature. He looked like a kid that got the toy he wanted.
And a quarterback, he's supposed to be a leader of men. You know
He's
what I'm saying?
exactly,
He
which I've
is
heard that he's not.
the face. Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Mhm.
it, especially, since we started to see him act out, since we've seen some of the things on social media, him scrubbing his social media page of all
Come on, man.
Cardinal, like who
Come on.
does that, bro?
Come
Only
on. That,
to sign. Come on, bro.
no. What quarterback does that?
Yeah, what? Yeah, exactly.
No,
What it would.
that's wide receiver stuff. That's wide
Yeah,
receiver, cornerback stuff. That's not quarterback stuff. Because when you look at the reality, Arizona, they put all the chips on the table for Kyler Murray, and they
hmm
gave up. And I hate to say this. Okay, people may disagree with me. I still feel like under the right circumstances that Josh Rosen could have been a good quarterback in this league, or at least serviceable. But they gave up on. I mean, let's be honest. They gave up on that guy after 1 year.
yeah.
And he played on a very bad Arizona team. So just seeing that Arizona was willing to get rid of a guy that they just drafted a year ago as a first rounder, that just shows how invested they were in Kyler Murray. So once again, kind of going back to his contract, he was next in line. I
It
think. Do I
was.
think? Do I think he could have waited another offseason? Yeah, but I mean,
But
right now.
he's so immature. He's so immature, bro. I think he might have held out.
Oh no, I believe so. I believe he would have held out as well, because
And 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 I think, at your quarterback, okay, he holds out. Maybe you figure something out. Maybe he folds. Maybe he gets back in the camp. But now he's getting a late start, like we just mentioned. Your number one wide receiver, are top three, top five wide receiver in the game. He's already going to miss 6 games. Now you starting off the season slow, and just that quick. Season's turned around. You went from a playoff team to right back toward the top of the draft.
but then also you got to look at this, and obviously there's another guy in that division, not a quarterback, but Debo Samuel is fighting for his contract as well. It hasn't happened, but it's probably in the workings, right? I don't think they're going to trade him. I think they're going to find a way to pay him. But one thing we know about Debo Samuel is, honestly, if you look at his injury history, if I'm Debo Samuel, I'm getting that money, because I don't see myself
Oh
lasting
yeah,
as long as
because
other guys.
last year was his first season.
Thank you.
Really, really,
Staying healthy.
staying healthy. And and don't get me wrong, he's showing flashes, but last year was the first season you seen him
And put it all together.
consistently be able to make plays over a full season. So yeah, I mean, of course, I'm gonna wait out and get paid too. You know what I'm saying? For sure.
So Kyler Murray, obviously he's had his knickknacks and injury history. This may just be a moment of realism for him, where he's like, look, I keep getting hurt. I'm not 6'5", 240 like Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably need to go ahead and take this money sooner rather than later. So if something goes, I have some insurance, which I can't argue with, because we know one thing about the National Football League is that they'll throw players away like trash.
Indeed.
So, I mean, I can't argue. That's why I say it's just so tough for me, because the competitor and the football player in me is like, I don't feel like he should have got paid. But then the NFL guy in me is just like, well, he has to get his money.
And that's why I say it was a bit of a catch-22 with me, because, like I said, once again, he's not a top 10 quarterback to me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to throw shade at him. Like, clearly the talent is there. I think he has a wonderful arm. The guy, and the way he can extend plays, you know what I'm saying, and possibly make plays with his feet. I think he's a good player. I think he's a phenomenal player, a phenomenal talent.
Yeah.
But through 3 NFL seasons, all we've seen is a hard start, only to tail off. And then now in his only playoff appearance, as you said, arguably probably the worst first playoff game for a quarterback in history. I mean, he looked like a like a freshman in high school,
19 for 34, 137 yards, 2 interceptions. He got sacked twice. He had a quarterback rating. He had a QBR of 7.9.
And the crazy part is, I don't even think those numbers truly show how bad he was in that game.
There was a point by the end of the second quarter, and I remember I said, I don't think I thought I was like in a dream. I'm like, this shit can't be real. There was a point I want to say it was about midway through the second quarter. He had 20 passing yards and 2 interceptions. That's how bad he played. And not only did he play a bad game, he didn't finish the game. They asked him to go back in. Obviously, they were getting blown out. Mm-hmm. And they asked him to come back in and which I think is good. Even if you're getting blown out as a quarterback, you got to show leadership. You got to take that shit on the chin and you got to play the rest of the game out. He didn't want to do that.
another sign of immaturity. You know what I'm saying?
So what I'm saying right now, once again, this is like the football. I've never seen anybody do this before and successfully like get away with it. So that just shows you like, man, like this guy, they're just really in a bind because I've never seen anybody play as bad as he played, didn't finish out the game, blamed his teammates, scrubbed his social media of his teams, of this team of the Arizona Cardinals.
As if this team hasn't exerted every effort to get him as many weapons around him as they could for him to be successful.
And then have your agent issue a public letter talking about how you want to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then, watch this. And then this team goes, I'll say this. Arizona got the shit punked out of them. They got punked.
They did. But what could they have done?
I guess it's easy. It's easier for me, in my cushy seat in Spring Valley to say what they could have done. I think for me is maybe they could have showed a little bit more resistance or been a little bit more stern in how they felt. And maybe, and to tell you the truth, maybe even if they pay him, they communicate some things. I look at, once again, going back to my Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson was known for communicate things to his players and his organization through the media. So, maybe they say like, hey, we want Kyler Murray to be here for the long haul. He has some improving to do. Maybe not, you don't have to name said areas, but he definitely has some growth and improving to do. But we hope he knows we want him to be here long term. But they kind of really didn't do that. They took the letter. They took the very public, which was kind of insulting. The public, we seen the public letter that his agent issued talking about he wanted the contract. They kind of took
I think we discussed it on the on one of the early episodes, actually.
Yeah, we did. It was the verbiage was just crazy. I'm like, man, this is nuts. I never seen no shit like this before. It's kind of like the audacity.
And another thing, I don't know if you've seen this today, but I've seen today as well. There's like verbiage in his contract where during the season he has to like what is it devote at least 4 hours a week or something like that to study time every game week during the season.
He has to study at least 4 hours. I want to say is it per day?
My thing is that's embarrassing to me, bro. That is embarrassing, bro.
Watch this. That is the quarterback equivalent of when Des Bryant, they had a clause in his contract that he couldn't go to certain clubs and strip clubs and bar. Like that is because as a quarterback, film study should be your second language.
If no one else knows the offense, if no one else knows what they're going to be looking at against a said team, you think coach, OC, DC, quarterback.
Let me ask you guys this: Do you think that Cincinnati needs to tell Joe Burrow to study film?
No. Or Justin Herbert?
No. Do you think that? I mean, man, we could just go through any let's just say quality quarterback. I don't even think Minnesota needs to tell Kirk Cousins to watch tape.
Absolutely. But and even crazy enough, we can even going down to Jacksonville, although they had a bad season, although Trevor Lawrence had his struggles, word is down there that, he's really grown into a leader. Word is that they're actually fairly surprised with his maturity. And this is a guy in year one on a terrible team.
Watch this.
They terrible last year.
I'll name you a guy who we talked about last episode. Mac Jones is known to be a film study junkie.
Yeah.
So once again, I guess
they say they got to kick him out the facility.
They have to say, like, they had to tell him, like, bro, you're a rookie. Like don't
go enjoy yourself.
Like, yeah, like have fun playing football. Like, don't get me wrong, this thing should be taken serious, but there should be some fun to it too. But just once again, just to hear that's another sign of his growth. On a more positive note, I really hope he grows into the player that he can become. I am all about guys meeting or fulfilling their potential, and meeting expectations that not only that the public has set, but maybe expectations that they set for themselves. So I want to see him get there. I think I just want to see him grow as a person, and it happens. We should watch Matthew Stafford win a Super Bowl. And, there were rumblings early on. Obviously, he was always a baller, but there was rumblings early on in Detroit that Matthew Stafford was a little bit entitled, was a little bit whiny early on. And people don't realize Jim Caldwell coming to Detroit was so instrumental in Matthew Stafford's growth as a leader and as a quarterback. So there's hope.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, obviously the talent is there. I mean, I love his arm. Like, to be such a small, like in stature, he has a big arm. You know what I'm saying?
He can rip it. He can
definitely he can absolutely sling it. And I don't know. I mean, you just mentioned Jim Caldwell really kind of being that guy to kind of help, bring Matt Stafford in. Is Kings is you know what I'm saying? Like is Kingsbury be that guy? You know what I'm saying? And that's another story for another day. I mean, he probably shouldn't even got that job, but anywho, we'll venture off track all day about that.
He's dating or he's married to somebody's daughter or something or niece.
He got some dirt on somebody, bro.
He got something. He got some pictures locked away for him to get that, because he's like Cliff Kingsbury, who wasn't even winning at Texas.
Wasn't a winning at Texas Tech. He wasn't even a winning coach at Texas Tech. But hey, to each his own. With that being said, like I said, I mean, his win total has increased every year. He was 5-10-1 his rookie year, 8-8, and then last year in the 14 games that he did play, they were 9-5 and first playoff appearance. So he threw for a little over almost 3,800 yards, 24 passing TDs to 10 interceptions, and I don't got his rushing numbers on right now, but he rushed for a few more touchdowns. But I mean, yeah, like we said, man, the talent is there, man. So hopefully he can go ahead and really mature. I think, like we just said, with D-Hop being out, we're really gonna have to see him be a leader of men. We're really gonna see just what type of quarterback he truly is. Don't be surprised if things kind of go in reverse and they kind of start off slow until D-Hop gets back, and then you see them maybe make a run at it. With that being said, I mean, I think they're probably the third best team in that division. Obviously, the Rams. Yeah, obviously the Rams are the Rams. They're going to be right back in contention for another Super Bowl run.
San Fran.
San Fran. Hopefully Trey Lance. Because and that's another thing too. They've told Jimmy Garoppolo to go ahead and seek that trade. So they're really going to be going all in with Trey Lance now. So we'll see where that goes or what happens with that.
When I tell you that's putting it all on the table. That's putting all the chips, because they didn't won a lot of games with Jimmy Garoppolo. So
yeah, say what you want about Jimmy, but he wins games.
He wins games. He wins games, and they fucking love him in that locker room.
Oh yeah,
they love his dirty draws in that locker room.
And it's like, say it's not like a situation like in Kansas City where, by all reports, Pat Mahomes was lighting it up at, that the 1 year he was behind Alex Smith, Pat Mahomes was lighting it up. Then I believe they let him start the last game of that season. He came in, lit it up. You know, I mean, I from last year, I remember, there were some rumblings that he was kind of struggling even in practice or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like you said, they're putting all their eggs in the basket with this kid. So he better be the real deal and quickly.
Yeah. So obviously you hope, and you know what? Let me stop. I trust Kyle Shanahan. If anybody can get the most out of a quarterback, even a growing young quarterback, is Kyle Shanahan. So
and they're going to run the football. So
they are,
and that's another thing that's going to make life a lot easier for them.
Right,
they're going to run the football.
Right, exactly. And at a minimum, so we over here doing a whole NFC West breakdown.
Yeah, we didn't.
But no, at a minimum, his athleticism will unlock a lot more play opportunities, and it'll open a lot of things up that maybe they didn't have with a Jimmy Garoppolo. A lot more rollouts, right? A lot more, maybe some read option stuff. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out. And exactly, he probably hasn't had a quarterback with that type of athleticism since RG3.
True.
Yeah, so he's probably excited to see what he can do with that. So once again, NFC West going to be a lot of fun. We'll definitely cover them in the upcoming weeks. Kyler Murray got his new contract. Hopefully he goes and watches some film and gets ready for the season.
Right. But today we're jumping into the NFC East.
Let's start from the bottom up.
Oh, now you want to start from the bottom up, huh? Okay. Well,
I felt like I really want to talk about the Giants. You don't think so?
I mean, it's not much to talk about there. You know what I'm saying? Well, I think they went 4-13 last year.
4-13.
I mean, they got first round of the draft. They got Johan Dotson. I mean, no, I'm sorry. They got Kayvon Thibodeau, and then with the 5th pick, and then with the 7th pick, they got Evan Neal, offensive tackle out of Alabama. They also, for a team that was already fairly bad, I mean, they lost a few key guys in free agency. James Bradbury.
They released him.
Okay, so they released him, and I actually think he stayed in the division. Actually,
yeah, he's in Philly.
He went to Philly. That's what I thought. Yeah, and then Logan Ryan went to the Buccaneers. They lost. I didn't even realize they had lost Evan Ingram, who bit of an enigma. You know what I'm saying? Showed flashes, but never quite became what they thought he would be. But he's with the Jags. Jabril Peppers signed with the Patriots. So, I mean,
which I love that fit.
Word. I mean, obviously, they still dependent upon Daniel Jones. They're still gonna ride him. I mean, it's literally now or never for him. It was now or never for him last year for me, but this year is literally now or never for him. And hopefully Saquon Barkley can come back and turn into that guy that he was, in his rookie year. And I mean, I don't know, man. What do you see for this team?
I actually like the Giants.
Why?
Because they really have talent. They're not okay. So if you look at bad teams, right? Okay, so we talk a lot about Detroit, who we love. I know we both talked about we love the fight that they put up last year. They wasn't going to lay down for anybody. They're probably one of the more competitive bad teams that we've seen in recent memory. And we could argue that they were only that bad because they were devoid of talent.
Okay.
Right. This New York team, they're really. I mean, we have question marks about Daniel Jones and what he can do, but look at every single position. They have talent. They have a lot of young talent on the offensive line. Receiver wise, I mean, they drafted the kid. Out of Florida last year, who's a rookie.
Kadarius Toney.
Right?
Mm-hmm. They got Kenny Galladay and Sterling Shepard.
Who stole some money, right? Sterling Shepard. He stole some money. They still have Darius Slayton, who I actually like as a possession guy.
So do I.
And once again, they still got Saquon Barkley coming out of the backfield, and defensively, they have talent on defense. Everybody's hyped up about Kayvon Thibodeau, but they drafted a kid, Aziz. I want to chop his name up, Aziz Alajori. They drafted him out of Georgia last year, and he led them in sacks. They still got Leonard Williams, USC. one of my guys, USC guy. I
I
mean,
like him. I like Leonard Williams.
Yeah, they still got Blake Martinez is coming back off an injury.
Linebacker.
To me, Blake Martinez is one of the more underrated guys in the National Football League at linebacker. They still have Adoree Jackson there. Like, this isn't a team that just doesn't have talent. What it is they need somebody that can come in, a leader, obviously a head coach that can really help them put all the pieces together. For them to win more games, Daniel Jones doesn't need to be phenomenal. He just needs to be above average.
And speaking of head coach, they just brought in McDermott from
Brian Daboll.
They got Brian Daboll. Excuse me.
Yeah, Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator, played a pivotal role in developing Josh Allen, and really building that.
I'm saying I'm thinking about Buffalo's coach.
McDermott. So I think because he got, I said this. Me and VJ talked about this 2 weeks ago. Because Brian Daboll was able to help the maturation process of Josh Allen, who now is a top 3 guy. Not saying that Daniel Jones is going to be that, but I think he is going to be able to come in and fix a few things that coaches in the past. Like, Joe Judge wasn't an offensive guy. Joe Judge was a special teams guy. I mean, granted, they had Pat Shurmur, but who's ever believed in Pat Shurmur? Pat Shurmur's a good offensive. He's an okay offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, he's never really proven to be anything as a head coach. And then I think before that, he missed Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo was gone before he was drafted there. So I believe in what Brian Daboll is going to come there and do. I think he's going to put something in place. I'm not saying this is going to be an elite or explosive offense, but I think that they'll be much better than what we've seen in years past. So that's why I like them, because they're a team. And I'll say this, even as a Cowboys fan, that's my main team. It's not out of the realm of possibility that the Giants can go from worst to first. It's very possible.
This team.
It's very possible.
I don't know. I mean, they got some pieces, but for me, they're still probably the third most talented team in this division.
Watch this. You know the NFC East curse, right?
Yeah, I mean, but what, worst or first? I mean, so now, I truly hope that he does stay healthy all season. But now you're dependent on Saquon Barkley really being healthy. Now you're really dependent on Daniel Jones truly taking that second step.
So let's think about this, just to show you how it sounds absurd, but it's happened. We have so many examples of it, right? Dallas has went from third or fourth to first in the division. Philly was fourth in the division, and they went and won the Super Bowl the next year.
I mean, yeah, but
Washington, if I'm not mistaken, finished fourth in the division the year before they won it.
I mean, but my thing is, okay, you just mentioned, okay, they got some nice pieces, they do, but from a talent standpoint, even the Cowboys have lost a slew of guys, and I still consider them from a talent standpoint to still be have more talent than this Giants team, and the same with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are borderline loaded.
I'll tell you this. I think, especially if we're looking at the wide receiver position, I would take as a whole, I would take the Giants wide receiving core over what Dallas has right now, because they have more proven commodities. Sterling Shepard, even if he's not great, let's think about this. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton are their number 3 and 4 guys.
I mean, I like them too, but even with Sterling Shepard, we talk about another guy who tends to battle injuries.
Yeah,
like they have a lot of guys. They have a lot of guys offensively that, I mean, obviously the talent's there, but they battle injuries. And like I gave up on Daniel Jones year before last, you know what I'm saying? And then he went out there last year with another stinker. Mm-hmm. And they're still, now here they are. I think this will be his third coach, correct? And I think, yeah, because he has Shurmur and
Joe Judge. Yeah, this would be
Joe Judge. This would be his third coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, okay, and that's not good. I mean, obviously that's not good, but I mean, it's just not there. The kid just doesn't have it to me. I'm sorry, he just doesn't have it to me.
Well, okay, so I'll give you. I'll name somebody. I'll give you a comp. Alex Smith was probably in quarterback hell, quarterback purgatory, however you want to define it, his first 6 or 7 years in San Francisco until Jim Harbaugh got there. Now, this is not me saying that Brian Daboll is Jim Harbaugh, but what I'm saying is sometimes guys just need a better foundation, a better structure for them to build off their talents. Daniel Jones has talent. He doesn't have a noodle arm. He's actually more athletic than guys want to give him credit for. Daniel Jones can run.
That I will give him. He is more athletic than teams give him credit.
If Brian Daboll can come in and just settle him down and just help him be average to above average, they can actually win. Now, on another end, right? Let's take all the pressure off of Daniel Jones. I mention this because people, haven't really talked enough about Saquon Barkley, but Saquon Barkley don't need to grow the hell up.
In what sense? What makes you say that?
Well, okay, and I'm glad it was a comment that was made about a week ago. It was an unnamed NFC coach, but he said what I've been thinking for the past 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. Saquon Barkley does not know how to play running back. He's still learning how to play running back at the NFL level. He tries to break. He wants everything to be a home run. He's not he's not like I'm a chip away 3 yards, 4 yards. No, he's like every play has to be a 50-yard, explosion run. This, that, and
it kind of has that. It kind of has that Reggie Bush syndrome.
Exactly. He's still learning how to pace himself and find.
Because it honestly took Reggie Bush. I feel like it wasn't until maybe he got to Miami when he really was like, okay, all right, it's levels to this thing.
Mm-hmm. And that was a great version of Reggie Bush. I'm like, man, if you didn't play like this a few years ago, we might have been talking about you in Canton. But but he's still carved out and established a role for himself in the league. Mm-hmm. But for Saquon, it's alarming because I think that there's, outside of him being an athletic guy, and obviously he can do a lot of things, catching the ball out the backfield and splitting them out wide, there's not very much that he has to hang his hat on. And one thing I will never forgive him for, because he's too big and too athletic, guys just punk him in pass protection. Mm. And, I go back to the play with Jamal Adams, who is probably 15 to 20 pounds lighter than he is, and Jamal Adams blitzes in the backfield and moves him aside like a child, snatches the ball out of Daniel Jones' hand and runs it for a touchdown. And that's who Saquon, and even Tiki Barbers came out and said, "You're not a 3-down back."
I remember that. Yeah, I remember.
And nobody could argue with it, because the truth is, as talented as this guy is, he hasn't even fine-tuned the little things as far as being a running back.
It's boom or bust, either it's a 70, 80-yard run or
a 2 or 3 yard loss. Like, what is this? So that's my biggest gripe with him. I still love the talent, and I hope he builds his confidence back up and he can start to show some of the flash that he showed earlier in his career. But he's gonna have to really mature to truly become the flag carrier for that football team. But once again, they still have talent. I like what they added on the offensive line with Evan Neal. He's gonna slide in at right tackle, and I know they have the kid that they drafted.
I don't know. I'll be a little shaky sometime with Alabama offense.
Oh, of course. Hey, look, you preaching to the choir on that one, because they get. Oh my gosh, they look. Oh, he's 6'6", 320 pounds, chiseled, and then they get in the NFL and they just get lit up. They test well. They do all that. Remember DJ Fluker?
Even Cam Robinson.
I don't know how he got franchise tag. Another story for another day. Cam Robinson. I mean, Jedrick Willis might be the best Alabama offensive tackle, and he's entering year 3. Right. So obviously a lot of question marks, but once again, this New York team, they're a ball of clay, and hopefully Brian Daboll could add some definition and really iron some things out. But they have something to work with. So I guess we'll just have to sit and see. And from all reports, they're loving the culture that he's building. He's making things fun again, and he's taking a lot of input from the players. And I think it's gonna work. It's gonna work out better than what we expect.
I think they respect him. I think they seen what he did with Buffalo and how instrumental he was to Josh Allen, and I think he comes there with some little bit of respect on his name.
Go ahead. I was gonna say this. I'll say, because people will never agree with me on this. If Josh Allen doesn't go to the situation he goes to, I think he's a bust.
Okay. What I was gonna ask is, so you just said that you think that you wouldn't be surprised if they went worst to first in this division.
No,
So that
it pains me to say that, but it's because I'm looking at the talent that they have. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
so that means obviously you see an improvement on the 4-13
Yes,
record. How
yes.
many, if you were to say right now, how many wins would you give them this season coming up?
I could see them winning 7 games.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the team we're gonna get to next, the Commanders. I don't know. Do you well first of all, let's just jump into the Commanders. Obviously, I mean, I think the biggest move they made was, they went and made a move for old Carson Wentz. And you know what? And I have to publicly apologize to you because I remember us, a few years back having this debate, and I was like, bro, Carson did this, and hey, Dak had his chance. I remember that year when they were playing in the last game of the season. The Cowboys went to Philly, and it was for the division, and Philly won. And I just would not let you hear the end of that. And there you go, bro. There it is, right there. And from that moment, even that season, Carson was kind of struggling. But I mean, he's just, I don't know, man. I felt like he went into borderline the perfect situation and with the Colts, and then lo and behold, that they are last year with a chance to get into the playoffs, and he puts up a stinker against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 18. But with that being said, I mean, here he is now with the Washington Commanders. They drafted Jahan Dotson in the first round out of Penn State. Made a few moves. They got Trey Turner, right guard from the Steelers. They lost the defensive tackle Matt Ioannidis to the Panthers.
Who's good? Who I love.
Yeah.
I love Matt Ioannidis. Yeah,
I agree. They also lost Ricky Seals Jones to the Giants. I don't know, man. What do you? I mean, this is another team. I know. The other day we were talking about in the group chat, and I had uploaded this clip of Warren Sapp and some of the things that he had to say about that defensive that front four and how just excited he was about him, and rightfully so, because I know I was saying that you can argue they might have the best front four in the NFL, and I know you were saying definitely the most talented.
Yeah.
But what do you see for this team's future in 2022?
I could see them being a big disappointment this year, and it's not because they don't have the talent, but it's because they've invested so much in Carson Wentz that their season is probably going to hinge on his play. Because to me, I think you're in better shape if you just rock with Tyler Heineke and just continue to build.
I like Tyler Heineke.
And the reason why I say that is because he's a guy that locker room gravitates towards, who obviously overcame a lot. We even seen the interview he had last year where he started coming to tears and stuff like that, talking about his journey. He was sleeping on his sister's couch, and so a really feel good story, quarterback wise in the National Football League. But Carson Wentz is a guy that, I mean, he's on his last. This is his last chance to prove that he's even a starter in the league. Forget being a transcendent player. Yes. This is his last chance to prove that he can even continue to remain a starter. If he plays bad this year, if he probably has two, 3, 4 bad games, he's probably holding a clip.
Yeah, they probably slide Heineke right back in there.
They exactly. So, but that is the biggest question mark for me. Defensively, once again, I like what they have. On the D line. I'll say this: I do think Chase Young is a tad bit overrated, and we need to settle things down and temper expectations and let him grow. Well, I mean, let's look at last year. Like his first 4 or 5 weeks, he only had about 1 sack, 1.5 sack. And what it is I think that he came in as a rookie. His hair was on fire. He was still wet behind the ears, and he thought shit was sweet. And the truth is, in the National Football League, and once again, I'll even see my guy Micah Parsons will get an introduction to this as well. Guys, offensive coordinators, they lose a lot of family time in the offseason figuring out how they're going to stop you. I just think he didn't prepare for that possibility. And he was struggling even with Montez Sweat and
Jonathan Allen.
Jonathan Allen, and he was struggling even with those guys. But once again, they still have a nice talent base. They have the linebacker Jamin Davis, who they drafted last year. I want to say out of I forget. They draft them at some SEC school or something like that. But pretty good. They draft him in the first round. He's a good coverage linebacker. A guy that has grown on me and who's made a lot of plays on us pissed me off. But Cole Holcomb,
okay,
he's becoming a force. And I think people need to pay a little bit more attention to what he's doing there. He's kind of becoming like, I don't want to compare it, but he's kind of like becoming like a London Fletcher type of player for him. Just a big locker room presence, a little bit underrated, can do a little bit of everything, can cover, can stop the run, can blitz, but underrated maybe because he doesn't have the size or the athleticism that people covet. So Cole Holcomb is going to be really good for him. Receiver, let's jump back over to the offense. Receiver-wise, they're in great shape. That's why I can't give Carson Wentz any excuses. You have Gibson at running back, who's actually a really good receiver out the backfield. He was a receiver. He was a running back, and he was a receiver, I think, at Memphis as well. He played with Tony Pollard.
McKenzie, even the second running back, McKenzie is a good receiving back as well.
JD McKissick. They drafted the kid Jahan Dotson in the first round out of Penn State, and I think he's going to be really good. Kind of a field stretcher, but really good hands. He can high point the ball. He can track really well. And then we don't even need to talk a lot about Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's underrated. People don't realize Terry McLaurin is like that.
Did you see this coming out of college?
No, I didn't. But you know what? Ohio State keeps doing this. They keep putting out guys because let's be honest, even though this guy's banged up, at Ohio State, I didn't think Michael Thomas was going to be the player that he matured into. And so now you're looking at the guys that they put out. Everybody's looking at Garrett Wilson. I think Chris Olave is probably going to be the guy that becomes the better player. Just because you're looking at some of the nuances of his game. As a matter of fact, they compare Chris Olave to Terry McLaurin. But
they got him. They got Curtis Samuel,
another Ohio State guy.
Logan Thomas.
Yeah. Logan Thomas, who when healthy is actually a top 10 tight end.
I agree.
Yeah. So the pieces are there. Now they lost some stuff on the offensive line. They lost Brandon Scherf. They lost Eric Flowers, who, funny enough, even though he was a draft bust with the Giants, he actually was able to revive his career as a guard with Washington under Callahan, and he kind of really reestablished himself. So,
and I think that's why they went and got Trey Turner to kind of fill Brandon Scherf's spot.
Yeah, which will try, but Brandon Scherf is all pro guy. So he's over there in Jacksonville, helping them build with what they're putting together. So it's gonna be tough sledding, even though they have talent at certain positions. They still have lost a lot. I mean, they lost linemen too. Landon Collins are gone.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because we look. I can remember 2 or 3 years ago where Landon Collins was like the talk of the league. And now he's like, you haven't heard from the guy in like 2 years, but he's still been playing. He just maybe hasn't been as productive, and obviously he's in Washington where he's kind of washed away. But and they lost. Ryan Fitzpatrick finally retired. Man, I love that guy.
Man, for real, man. Shout out to Ryan Fitzpatrick, man. Seriously, because you knew 2-3 games out the season he was gonna get somebody for real, and he was slinging it for sure.
He was slinging it. Like I said, what's the analogy I use? I could be 60, 70 yards down the field, and he's gonna be like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna give him a shot."
No biscuit, no biscuit.
Let me give old Ken, 5'8", 220-pound Ken a shot.
Seriously,
yeah.
I got a question, bro. Yeah. Is Ron Rivera on the hot seat?
Damn, that's tough. I think he has to be. Okay, I'll say this.
I think so.
I'll say this. He's not right now.
Really?
He's not right now. But
because I don't know what is this year 5 there maybe?
No, this is like year 3. This is
Okay.
about year three there. Year three, maybe year four. I think it's year three, but he's not now because I think they believe in him, and obviously what the things he's had to fight through to stay there and to make it work and help build that team and build that culture. But if it starts bad, he'll be on the hot seat very quick. So you have guys that are on the hot seat, and you have guys that are very close to being on the hot seat. He's a guy that's very close to being on the hot seat, especially everybody. You're looking at the trend in the National Football League. Everybody wants
a young offensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Which is what you just seen.
And he's kind of a throwback to those defensive guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys aren't finding success. That's just the truth. It's you're looking at it like, damn, it's not very many successful defensive coaches.
But the game is changing though. You know what I'm saying?
It's changing. So
everybody wants the next Sean McVay.
Even though it's only one Sean McVay. And then everybody you got Minnesota just took Kevin O'Connell, who was the offensive coordinator over there with the Rams, and he replaced Mike Zimmer in Minnesota.
And then obviously San Francisco offensive coordinator just went to Miami. His name leaves
Mike
me
Daniel.
right now. Mike Daniels, yeah.
Mike McDaniel.
McDaniels.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's why I say he could be. He's kind of a dinosaur. In an NFL that's kind of changing the trend of what they want in a head coach. So he may only have just a small window. I think if he's gonna make something happen, he needs to at least show improvement or make the playoff. Because here's the thing: last year they were actually in playoff contention entering December. They just faltered down the stretch, and they just didn't have the talent when it was all said and done. But yeah, so. If I was to look at, I'll tell you my exact prediction for them. I think they're going to win 5 games.
But watch this. Just that quick, Carson Wentz will be trying to find a backup job, huh?
He'll be holding somebody's clipboard. but funny enough, they'll win 5 games, but 2 or 3 of those games will be against good teams. That's why. Washington 100%. They're going to play a good team, and they're going to smack them around.
I think it's going to be more so defensively because I think the defensively the talent's there. I can see them. I can see the defense winning 2 or 3 of those games. I don't know. I kind of got it in reverse. I still see they went 7-10 last year. I think they come up with probably a similar record this year, and I still see the Giants with 4 or 5 wins. Man, I just think they're terrible. Honestly, but I don't know. We shall see.
Yeah, we shall.
A team that I am kind of excited about, Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, we know. Some people will argue they might have had one of the best NFL drafts this past April. They drafted they got a couple kids out of Georgia with Jordan Davis. They got Lacob Dean. I think in between those 2 picks, they got a offensive lineman. His name leaves me right now.
Are you talking about who? You talking about Philly?
Yeah.
Draft or
in the draft they got MB. I know they took Jordan Davis in the first round, and then they took another offensive lineman or something after that, and then they took Lacob Dean. But his name leaves me.
Yeah, you got me thinking now. I'm like,
but and then they obviously the free agent moves. We talked about them picking up James Bradbury from the Giants, Hassan Reddick, who led the Carolina Panthers in sacks last year. I think he had like 11.5. Led them in sacks last year. They got Jaquiski Tartt, and then obviously the big move they made this offseason, bringing in a legit wide receiver on the rise in AJ Brown. Obviously, the success of this team for me depends on the constant growth of Jalen Hurts. But what do you see for this team? Because honestly, bro, I think when you really look at this roster, I mean, there's no excuses.
No, Philly did everything, and it's funny because we say a lot about Harry Roseman, and sometimes he does some wild shit. Draft a quarterback in the second round when you have a guy that's supposed to be a franchise guy, and then getting on the podium and saying we're starting to quarterback factory, whatever
Hey,
the fuck that means.
hey.
Clown shit. But look, pure clown shit.
Maybe he knows something we don't know.
But I will say this. Howie Roseman knows how to build a fucking roster.
Yeah.
He'll pull the
I think
trigger.
he's proven it. He's proven it
He's proven
a
it
few times.
a few times. He knows how to build a roster. He'll pull the trigger. He'll make the big move. He's not afraid to obviously to give up draft capital to acquire a better player. Even going back to 2018, Philly was very close to getting Amari Cooper. Dallas just outbid him. Dallas gave up a 1. Philly was willing to give up a 2. So we could have easily have seen Amari Cooper in Philly, with Carson Wentz at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, everything that they've added, I love Hassan Reddick signing. Perfect. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, he's actually a Philadelphia guy. So this is him really coming home. They added Kaiser White from the Chargers. He like a safety linebacker hybrid. He was more of a safety rover in college. But he's matured into becoming a very decent linebacker. Definitely, obviously excels in coverage. James Bradbury, at a minimum, will be an upgrade over anything that they've had at corner opposite Darius Slay.
Yeah.
So he'll slide in right there, and
I think not to cut you off, bro.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people forget how good Darius Slay is. Like they don't call him Big Pay Slay for nothing.
No,
what I'm saying? I think obviously he was in Detroit for a while, and because of Detroit's record or whatever, he kind of gets overlooked. But I think he's one of the premier cornerbacks in this league, if I'm being honest.
No, he is, and if I'm not mistaken, he rated out pretty high. I don't think he allowed a touchdown in the season. So
I believe he scored 2 or 3 touchdowns last season.
I could argue, and we'll see if it carries over into this year. I could argue that this is the best version of Darius Slay we've ever seen. He's the game is probably just slowed down to him to a point to where, he's able to make those plays and he understands how to stop, different caliber wide receivers, where it'd be small guys with smaller statures and bigger body guys. He's just a very well-rounded, well-disciplined seasoned corner. So they got Darius Slay. Yeah, so they got Darius Slay. They have a guy who in the slot who it's funny enough, even as a Cowboys fan, I've always loved his game. I love Avonte Maddox. I'm a big Avonte Maddox fan.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's just a feisty, undersized. He's a nickel guy, but he can play some outside as well. 5'9", you could blitz him. You could do a lot of different things. You could probably even let him handle some safety responsibilities. But he's just a well-rounded DB for that team. But you add in James Bradbury, take some off of his play, and it lets you put him in a nickel, and you can just let him go. Defensive line wise,
they got some guys up there.
They got some guys.
They
got some guys.
Obviously, it starts with Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, we know Fletcher Cox is gonna be Fletcher Cox. They're getting a big piece. They're getting back, who is very versatile, and I can't say enough about him. But Brandon Graham, they'll get Brandon Graham back, and he's their starting base end. But what he's known for is on third downs, they'll kick Brandon Graham in, a defensive tackle. Kick him into that 3 technique and let him go. And everyone that seen Brandon Graham, very stocky build. He's like 6'1.5", 270, 280, right? So really, really, really built to where he can play that base and kick inside and play defensive tackle on third downs. But they have another kid that's rising up. I want to say he came out of Florida State. It's taken him some years to develop, but it's really starting to come together for him. He had 7.5 sacks last year. Josh Sweat.
Oh yeah.
It's coming together. And I'll be honest, I seen him make some plays. I seen him get a sack. I want to say against Dallas last year, and I remember watching him and saying, okay, this kid can be a problem. Like, to tell you the truth, Josh Sweat can be a double-digit sack guy for them.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now, we don't know how high that ceiling is. So, I don't know if it's mid or higher double-digit sacks, but I firmly, based off of what I've seen, he can be a 10 to 12 sack per year type of guy. He has the athletic profile. I want to say he's about 6'5", 250, 255. So we'll see how that happens. And then they re-signed Derek Barnett, a guy who I was big on coming out of Tennessee. I was actually mad. I wanted to see him go somewhere else. I was hoping Dallas was looking at him. But Derek Barnett broke I want to say Reggie White's record sack record.
Mm-hmm.
He broke that at Tennessee, but he just hasn't. Unfortunately, it hasn't materialized to what we thought he could have become. So he's still. I mean, I hate to say draft bust because he's contributed, but he still has. We're still hoping.
Still room to grow.
Still room to grow.
I think that I think and obviously a lot of the analysts have pointed this out. A lot of people think it could possibly be one of the steals of the draft. I think Jordan Davis went to probably the perfect situation. Just looking at those guys that they have at the line, and like you mentioned, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and Barnett Hargrave. To be able to learn from those group of guys, I just think he just went to a really, really perfect situation. Obviously, we know he tore it up at the combine. People freaked out over his 40 time at that size. And I think he's a very talented kid, and I think this is probably the perfect situation for him, because I don't think there'll be pressure on him right away to come in and be that guy for them. You know what I'm saying?
And he's playing under two really good defensive tackles. We're talking about Fletcher Cox, but I don't think people. Javon Hargrave is like that.
Yes.
He's like that. Yes. And I could argue. Javon Hargrave is probably a better pass rusher than Fletcher Cox. I was watching some of his reps last year, and I'm like, man, this boy's nasty. I think he was. Did he lead them in sacks?
I'm not sure. He might have.
He had about 7.5 sacks. Like Javon Hargrave was and he did that from the nose tackle position.
Him or Josh Sweat.
I think they were either tied or maybe Javon Hargrave led. I know he had 7+ sacks.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, he's really good. This is just a very well-rounded. This is as complete as a roster you could really have. I think they re-signed, or I think he re-signed a year ago, Anthony Harris, who used to be in Minnesota, who's a pretty damn good strong safety. You could do a lot of things with him. I mean, man, once again.
And then hopefully, Miles Sanders comes back healthy this season on the offensive side. We talked about they picked up A.J. Brown, which a legit receiver, a kid his ceiling is, what I'm saying, he's on the rise. You know what I'm saying? I loved A.J. Brown in Tennessee. You pair him with Devontae Smith, who they got last year out of Alabama, who showed, really showed some promise last year.
Yeah, I like his game. He plays the game like he's been playing it for 5 years.
I was just gonna say, for a kid, you really get a veteran vibe from him.
Yeah, you don't get and even if you see him like mic'd up on the sideline, he's very calm.
At Alabama, but I feel like even at Alabama, like he just seemed far more mature for his age. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta love that. I mean, they got Dallas Goedert still. I mean, they got some. They still got Jalen Reagor, who they took a few years ago. I mean, they got some weapons. Like it's really no excuse for it's really no excuse for Jalen Hurts.
Hey, look, Lord help these TCU receivers. So don't none of them pan out.
Yeah,
but
and Lord forbid, if Jalen Hurts, starts out bad, they got your boy backing him up, old Gardner Minshew.
And I'm going to tell you this, Gardner Minshew, you can say whatever you want to say. He's going to come in and he's going to sling that bitch.
Yeah.
He's going to throw it. And he's confident in himself. That's what I love about him.
He is.
But I'm going to name a guy who I think is going to be so pivotal to what they do. Obviously, they added A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's going to come in and occupy that number one role. He's going to be their possession guy. And then obviously, Devontae Smith will do a lot of things underneath.
Pascal?
No. Quez Watkins.
Oh, okay.
Quez Watkins is really good, man. And he's actually establishing himself as one of the better deep threats in this league. Very fast guy. And has some height and has some length to him. Maybe somewhere along the lines, maybe a little close to what Michael Gallup is, but probably a little bit faster.
Michael Gallup.
Yeah. But it's funny because Quez Watkins, this is just the craziest thing to me. It's not crazy, but it's just I could only imagine being that guy. But in the same draft that they drafted Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins was in that same draft. He was like a 5th-round draft pick. Mm-hmm. And now Jalen Reagor is buried on the depth chart, and Quez Watkins is essentially their number 3 receiver behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So sad, we see it happen all the time where guys that were drafted under other guys wind up outplaying them, but that's just the nature of the game. But At tight end, obviously we know Dallas Goddard is a top 10 guy, top 8 guy now, right? And if he can continue to stay healthy, that they're going to do good things. But let's not sleep on their offensive line. They have a damn good offensive line.
Yeah.
Jordan Mailata I believe he'll be a Pro Bowler this year. As a matter of fact, mark my words. Jordan Mailata will be a Pro Bowler this year. He was actually damn close to being a Pro Bowler and All Pro last year. But he was actually what do you call it? I forgot what you classify him as, but he's not from America. He was a developmental overseas player. If I'm not
Oh
mistaken, I think
wow.
exactly. If I'm not mistaken, I think Jordan Mailata played rugby.
Oh.
But he's developed into a really good. He's from Australia or New Zealand, one of the two. But he's developed into a really, really. Not only is he an athletic freak, but he's developed into a really damn good, just technician at left tackle. And he beat out the kid that they drafted in the first round to start at left tackle, which was what's his Andre Dillard. They drafted him out of They drafted him out of I want to say it's a Pac-12 school. I don't know why I forgot that, but yeah, he was supposed to start, and Jordan Mailata went ahead and took that spot. Washington State.
Okay.
Yeah, Washington State. They got the kid from Alabama who's actually playing pretty good. Landon Dickinson, he's a guard. Jason Kelsey, he's playing his last year. I think this might be his last 1 or 2 years there. Isaac
Lane
Samala,
Johnson.
Lane Johnson is great, and hopefully he can stay on the field, not health wise, but we know last year he took that time off for mental health.
Yeah.
So everything really falls on Jalen Hurts, who I love his character, I love his work ethic. I think he has a lot of limitations.
Can he? Do you see? Can you see him taking that next step as a pocket passer? Because I think he's gonna have to. I think that's the next step in his evolution. I think he's gonna have to for his team to be, as successful as we see them being.
I'll put it like this: I don't think he'll ever be a really good passer. I think at best he can just be like above average or good. But if Nick Sirianni is able to continue to do what he does with that offense and build it around what Jalen Hurts does well, to me it's less about him just becoming this transcendent passer and more about him changing. So we can't do any more 17 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions. No, now it has to look like 25 touchdown passes and 8 to 10 interceptions or something like that. And then obviously we're not even accounting for maybe some of the things that they're going to have him do on the ground. People forget last year Philly had the number 1 run offense in the National Football League. They was running that thing down.
And that was with Miles Sanders really missing a lot of time.
Look, we talking about Miles Sanders. They got Kenneth Gainwell, who's actually pretty damn good. He was balling.
And Boston Scott behind him.
Yeah. And they use all of their running backs, including they literally use all their running backs and Jalen Hurts to really manufacture. And they have a big bodied offensive line that's built to push people around and open up holes. So the pieces are there. I still want to see how it's going to work out with AJ Brown. It can go either one of two ways. Obviously, it could work out, and we may see AJ Brown maybe have a. I'll put it like this: I still don't think AJ Brown will have the statistical output that he could have had with Ryan Tannehill. I think Ryan Tannehill, even if you like Jalen Hurts a little bit more, Ryan Tannehill is definitely a better thrower of the football.
Passer, yeah,
and has a bigger arm. Whereas with Jalen Hurts, there's some balls that he's just not going to be able to get to AJ Brown because his arm's just not like that from an accuracy standpoint, and he doesn't have a very strong arm. So I think it can work, but don't be surprised if you don't see AJ Brown have a crazy statistical year. His numbers are more efficient than just outrageous. But I go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to ask. I mean, obviously they went 9-8 last season. What do you see? How many wins do you see them getting this season? And can you see them making it back to the playoffs?
Yes, I think Philly this year will win 10 games. I think they'll win anywhere between 10 to 11 games. Obviously, they have a fair shot to win a division, but at a minimum, they'll be a playoff team. They're gonna run. They're gonna continue to do what they did last year. They're gonna pick back up where they left off. They're still gonna run the football, and now to offset that, they've gotten better defensively. What they didn't have pass rush wise, they added in Hassan Reddick, and then Josh Sweat, and they're getting Brandon Graham back. So they're gonna get some boost in a lot of different places. But when there's a team that already has a defined strength, and you add in different variables around that, I mean, unless they just shit the bed, they have nowhere to. If they don't win the same amount of games, I think they're going to win a little bit more. They'll be a playoff team. I'll say this: the NFC East is going to be significantly better next year.
I can agree with that.
It was significantly better last year. It gotten better, and you start seeing, like, once again, going into December,
they got two playoff teams. They had two playoff teams last year.
Exactly, and going into December, Dallas, Philly, and Washington were very well in the NFC playoff picture. So I could see the NFC East really being a solid division. I think two teams will come out again and come into the playoffs. But I like Philly.
And it's crazy, got to give credit where it's due. It's crazy. I remember when Philly first hired Nick Sirianni, and everybody hated the move, but I mean, you got to give credit where it's due. I mean, he's got them going in the right direction. You got to give credit where it's due.
No, he does. He has them going in the right direction. I think, and I even talked about this on the Break Room Breakdown. I believe it's because he's a younger guy, and he's able to relate to his players on a level that most coaches are not. You've seen him and Jalen Hurts got the handshake and all that stuff. So I love he just fits in really well with that locker room. And I think somewhere along the lines last year, everybody was counting them out. I know I wrote them off because I'm like, man, they're not going to do shit, especially after we blew them out that one time.
Right.
But you can tell they probably gotten, had a locker room talk, and they were just like, fuck it. Like, fuck what everybody's saying about us. We're going to figure this out. We're going to stick together. And they were able to become – people don't realize they made the playoffs in essentially a rebuild year. Last year was that was like a rebuild year for them. That's impressive. So we got to give Nick Sirianni his flowers. And once again,
and they did battle their injuries as well.
They did. So it's funny, man. Like, shit. And once again, that makes you look at Howie Roseman, obviously different, and the people in that front office who we were down on. But if they're able to hire, if Nick Sirianni goes to the playoffs the second time, you're looking at the last two hires that they've had, and it's just like, damn, like they really knocked out the ballpark. Because Doug Peterson was a winning coach. After they won the Super Bowl, Doug Peterson didn't have a losing season. He just didn't make the Super Bowl again. Right. And he went to as a matter of fact, and he went to the playoffs every single year after he won the Super Bowl. So, and I think he's going to do that in Jacksonville as well. But to go from him and to get somebody younger, a younger offensive mind than Nick Sirianni, that's probably a little bit more impressionable, and maybe you can control them a little bit more. I mean, you can't help but kind of give them their credit for that hire. So once again, I love what Philly's doing, man. I love the culture that they're putting together. They have a lot of tough blue collar guys. Defensively, it just, you ever see a defense and it just looks like it fits.
Yeah, and I think they it's probably why the city loves them. I think their defense just fits the culture of their city. You know what I'm saying? Just tough, hard nosed, gritty grinding defense. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, I think I had them going. I mean, they went 9-8 last year. I think they go 10-7 this year. I think they improve a game on that. I think they're gonna battle for the division with our next team. I know anybody who knows Kenny knows this is his squad. The Dallas Cowboys. And ironically, let me just say this to the people. Ironically, y'all see me, I'm kind of on location here. Crazy enough, make a long story short, I'm here. My wife, the company she works for, they had a big conference here, and so we're at this. They kind of put her in this hotel or whatever for the next few days. And the irony is that this hotel is actually connected to the Dallas Cowboys practice facility. Obviously, they started out in California, which is where they're at now.
Mhm.
But this hotel is connected to their practice facility, and so my wife actually earlier today, she got to meet Michael Gallup, who's still behind here. So she got to meet him earlier today, and that was
Still, still, still,
she didn't know
still.
who he was. Yeah, she didn't know who he was initially until until someone else pointed out, and she was just like, "Oh, hey, well, how are you?"
And she said he was. She said he was nice.
Yeah. She said it was really cool. She said, he came by because he was walking with someone, and he came by, and he spoke. Obviously when he came in, he seen him there, and he spoke, and they said good morning or whatnot. But the guy she was working with knew who he was right away, and he started kind of like
Yeah.
fan drooling or whatever. And then that's how she found out that it was Michael Gallup. And he came over and, shook their hand and everything. And, he spoke to him and, welcomed him to the hotel. Like I said, the hotel is pretty much connected to the facility. Yeah, that's where we at. And I think it's just interesting. It's a beautiful facility. I mean,
Look,
Jerry Jones spares no expense. The man spares no expense. Just a couple weeks ago, I had the in-laws here, and I took them down to Jerry's World, which stadium I don't stay very far from that stadium, and I mean Jerry Jones spares no expense, and this whole area is beautiful. It's just Dallas Cowboyed out. It's a beautiful area, but getting to these Cowboys, they went 12-5 last season. I know first round they went O-line. They drafted Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. They lost some guys in free agency. They did lose some guys. Obviously, we know Mari Cooper went to the Browns. They lost on the O-line. They lost La'el Collins to the Bengals. They lost Connor Williams to the Bengals. Defensively, Randy Gregory ends up going to Denver. Keanu O'Neal goes to the Buccaneers. They lost Cedric Wilson, who made some solid players for you guys. He also went to Miami. They did sign James Washington. They signed Dante Fowler Jr. I don't know, man. I mean, obviously we know, as we just mentioned, Michael Gallup's probably going to miss first few games of the season. I think a couple things for the Dallas Cowboys for them to get back to the playoffs. I think obviously Dak Prescott is really and I think we both agree he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. I think especially to start this season, I think Dak Prescott is really going to have to be him. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to have to be that guy for them. I also think CeeDee Lamb he's got to get himself into, maybe that top 10 wide receiver conversation. Like now's the time for him, especially with CeeDee Lamb being out. I know we talked before. I think Dalton Schultz he's going to be a Pro Bowler this year. Like I really think he's gonna put his name in that tight end conversation. As he's gonna burst into that top 10 tight end conversation.
Well, I think he's already in that conversation. But
you might see him moving himself up that list. Like I really like him. And then obviously it seems like we've been saying this for the past few years now. What Ezekiel Elliott are we gonna get? You know what I'm saying? And I know you and I, like I said, me and this dude debate Ezekiel Elliott crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I know obviously you feel a little differently about him than I do. I feel like he's kind of lost a little bit of a step. I don't think he'll be that Zeke that we saw those first 2 or 3 years. I don't think he can get back to that guy anymore. But I think a healthy combination of him and Pollard, can really be great for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think often you see the best Dak Prescott when you see a great running effort from Pollard and Zeke. So I don't know, man. This is your squad, man. I'm gonna let you take it away, bro. What do you see?
Well, first of all, what? I'll leave them for last. I'll leave Dak and Zeke for last.
Right? Okay.
But you're right. They lost some big pieces in the offseason. Randy Gregory was what I would say it was a big loss. Wasn't as substantial as maybe we think it was because he was productive, but obviously he's a guy that was always in trouble or always battling injury. So
I can agree with that.
wasn't like he was a 10 to 15 sack guy. I mean, last year he only had 6 to 7 sacks, right?
And you guys already obviously you have now two probably two
Very
double digit
capable
sack guys
guys.
with Lawrence and Michael
Parsons, exactly. And then there's a guy that doesn't get talked about enough who was a reserve and got equal amount, who made just about equal amount as plays as Randy Gregory, and that's Dorrance Armstrong. So don't be surprised if he has a big year. But let's start with offensively. Once again, they lost some pieces. They lost Amari Cooper. That's going to be substantial because I think that, and I think it's going to be substantial for both players because I believe that Dak was so instrumental in Amari Cooper's growth as a wide receiver too. Amari Cooper enjoyed career highs in Dallas that he didn't have in Oakland. So they definitely had a rapport. But
I think it's the other way around, but
no, I mean, teams don't just trade first round wide receivers. He fell to like third or fourth on their depth chart, and they traded him away. And he comes to Dallas, and obviously he makes Dak Prescott better but Dak Prescott didn't have anybody. But I mean, let's be honest, Mark Cooper doesn't get his contract if he doesn't come to Dallas. That's just the real.
You can say the same thing for Dak Prescott.
And watch this, and that's fair. But I think it's a little bit more equal than people want to make it out to be. But not to go too far, he did his job. I think every growing quarterback needs a well nuanced route running wide receiver to help their confidence to make certain type of throws. And now Dak Prescott's at the point it doesn't matter if he's throwing to Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb or you're even seeing some passes that he's throwing to Michael Gallup. He can throw guys open, and he's able to put balls in places where a lot of quarterbacks just aren't. And that's just because of his anticipation, not because of his arm strength. So he's really grown the confidence to make what I call big boy throws, and that's because he had Amari Cooper, who is such a great route runner, and he's going to get open on his own right. That it kind of gave him, and even at times when Amari Cooper first got there in 2018, I remember it was a play against Philly, and they had Scott Linehan at offensive coordinator, who had a 3-4 play playbook, but Scott Linehan was Ezekiel Elliott crazy. So that whole playbook was around Ezekiel Elliott. But Scott Linehan gives them a play. Amari Cooper comes in, they go in the huddle, and he says, bro, like, fuck that shit. Like, let's throw the ball. And so they change the play. He runs like a fade route, and then like a fade or a deep post. Dak Prescott hits him, and it's like a 50, 60-yard touchdown. But that's because Amari Cooper gave him that nudge and gave him that confidence to take that next step progression as a quarterback. So it's always bittersweet when you have a guy like that goes. I think Dallas's front office is, I have to say it, save Will McClay. I think Jerry and Stephen Jones are abysmal at front office operations. I mean,
but Jerry is gonna have his nose and everything until the day he dies.
And here's the thing: I'm not against him. I'm not against him having his nose and things, but Jesus Christ, how do you only get a fifth for Amari Cooper? And what it is because you guys don't know how to keep anything in house. You literally let it get so bad to where the whole world knows that if you don't trade him, you're going to release him. Mm-hmm. So teams are like, why would I give you anything? You're going to release him anyways. We'll get him for free.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's why, if you look at a lot of the more successful situations, a lot of these owners, okay, they gonna come out of pocket and they gonna step out the way and let the guys who they hire to make these decisions make those decisions. That's just not Jerry Jones. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention, he hires his son, to be in one of those positions.
And let me preface this. Steven's not absolutely terrible, and I think he's made a lot of great, especially over the last 5 to 10 years. You really start to see him take that step and take more charge in that organization and kind of stop Jerry Jones from doing certain things. I want to say one of the more notable ones was there were people in that front office that had this. Jerry Jones was very well, apparently, really going to draft Johnny Manziel in 2014.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
But then they went ahead and said no, we're going to draft Zach Martin, and now Zach Martin is a first ballot Hall of Famer when he retires. So there's that positive influence. But once again, enough about that front office. They're very questionable. They let Amari Cooper out the building. You lose Cedric Wilson, which I think they'll be able to stomach. I was a fan of him coming out of Boise State. Once again, I was a big fan of him. I talked about this last week. I was a big fan of him coming out of Boise State. He broke records there. Just a very solid all-around wide receiver. Even if he's not your number one or number two guy, he's going to be a very valuable number 3 or number 4 because he plays all spots. And once again, he can make big catches. He can do everything. So, and he can play special teams as well. So they lose Cedric Wilson. They'll be able to stomach that with some of the young guys that they have, but that one's tough. Lost Connor Williams, obviously, but then they drafted Tyler Smith to fill that stead. But for the most part, I think that this Dallas team is just going to look a little bit different. Tony Romo even talked about it. He thinks it's going to go back to a lot more of what they were doing between 2016 and 2018, running the football. And I think that they're built for that. Now,
I agree with that. I think they'll see the most success there.
Yeah, and the reason why I say they're
no shade on Dak though. No.
It's just because the personnel grouping he had. First of all, Dak went. You could essentially say last year, even though he had moments where he struggled, as did Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator, he really showed that he can run the show, and you can win games through his arm. They won 12 games, essentially. I want to say probably the last 8 to 10 games, they really didn't have a consistent running game, right? It was just all passing. So he's shown that he can have success, but obviously when you add in a running game, that'll take away some of the things that defenses were doing against him. They were running a lot of too high shell, keeping stuff underneath. And I don't know, a lot of people don't know this. Dak Prescott was number 1 last year against the blitz of all quarterbacks. He was number 1 against the blitz. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he led the league in touchdowns against the blitz by a pretty wide margin. I want to say 8 to 10 touchdowns. So that's why you start to see the run game slow down. They start running more too high shell, and that's what he wasn't able to kind of get past that because he's used to be able to dissect and where guys are coming from and blitz it. And he's really good pre-snap guy, but that too high shell was just killing him last year, especially with no running game to combat it. Offensive line rebuilding, Tyler Smith from Tulsa. You know me, I wasn't the biggest fan of the pick initially, but every time Dallas drafts an offensive lineman, we always say, "Oh, here we go again," and they always pan out. Travis Frederick, people talk about, "Oh, Tyler Smith wasn't projected to be a first round." I remember when Dallas drafted Travis Frederick, they got openly ridiculed on all sports networks. He had a 3rd or 4th round grade, and Travis Frederick goes on to become a top 2 center over the next 5 to 6 years of his career. And he obviously retired because he had Guillain-Barré syndrome and his body wasn't the same. And then they drafted Zach Martin. No one had big doubts about Zach Martin. They just wanted a flashier pick. And then obviously they drafted Tyron Smith over J.J. Watt, and that worked out for him as well. So in Dallas, not in all things, but when it comes to draft offensive linemen, I just sit back, shut up, and let them be them. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. You just got to take it. In the 2nd round, they grabbed Sam Williams from Ole Miss. He's a pass rusher, and he's a guy, a very big athletic, very good athlete, big kid. But he's a guy that could possibly look at sliding in and taking some of those reps that Randy Gregory was getting at outside pass rush. So you'll see like a 3-person battle between Sam Williams. They got Dorrance Armstrong, and they signed your boy Dante Fowler, who's bounced around for the Jaguars, played for the Falcons, and then he had his best season with the Rams with Aaron Donald. So for this team, just to kind of give people the big picture, I think this team will go back to doing a lot more things running wise. You saw them try to do that last year, but obviously Zeke got hurt and Tony Pollard was getting banged up too. They'll run the football, but I think defensively they're going to continue to take another step forward.
I think so too.
Oh yeah, because you look at the pieces that they have, everything is really coming together. Trayvon Diggs is young, but he's growing. He can take the ball away. He's still obviously learning. You could tell he plays corner like a wide receiver will play corner.
Yeah, I guess you want to see him get better, a little better technically. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, obviously, I mean, what 12 interceptions? I mean, you look,
Yeah.
you
I
take
mean,
it.
you got to take what you can take. And the thing
Yeah.
about him is, for Trayvon, all you're looking at is, okay, if this kid can tighten up the screws just a little bit, I mean, we're talking about a pretty goddamn good guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a certain, at a minimum, even if he doesn't improve by that much, Trayvon Diggs can say that there are certain routes you can't throw at him because he's going to pick it off. He's going to challenge it like a wide receiver would. So you Trayvon Diggs, you have a guy that even though he had that one bad game against Oakland, I don't know if you guys noticed, PFF rated Anthony Brown as a top 10 corner in this league. As a matter of fact, I think Pro Football Focus, Anthony Brown was rated above Trayvon Diggs because he was more steady, didn't allow as much big plays, and he had about 4 or 5 interceptions himself and 20 plus pass deflections. So Anthony Brown actually wasn't a slouch at all. He was actually a pretty damn good corner. But then you got the kid they drafted last year, Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky, who's hoping to take that stand and take that spot. So you got a lot of competition there. Safety, you got J-Ron Curse, who I love. I mean, like, I love J-Ron Curse. He was a free agent signing. He was with Detroit, but he started out with Minnesota. Clemson kid. He is Javon Curse's nephew.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and
Good lineage.
exactly, and he comes. I mean, he gets signed essentially as, I don't want to say like an extra roster guy, but a depth / special team signing. And he winds up carving out a role for himself. Wilson, the starting strong safety, Wilson from Texas A&M, he gets hurt. And then J-Ron Curse gets the spot, and he never gives it up. And then eventually they took Dan Quinn. At first they had Micah Parsons with the headset. But they didn't want it to. He was a rookie. You want to let a guy like that go,
right?
So they gave J-Ron Curse the headset, and he actually, for a vast majority of the season, probably a good 80%, he was their play caller. He was calling out and getting guys in order and calling out alignments. That's what he was doing. So he really became like the veteran, de facto
a leader and a kind of a captain almost on the defense.
Oh yeah, no, almost 100% a captain. And you look at his numbers, he probably, with a little bit more exposure, if he repeats his performance of last year or improves upon it, he should be a Pro Bowler this year. He should have been a Pro Bowler last year, based on his statistics. Was actually very good at stopping elite number 1 tight ends. Did a great job against Dallas Goedert. Did a great job against Darren Waller. Did a great job against Travis Kelce. George Kittle. Like, I mean, man, he's essentially neutralizing elite top 5 tight ends. So he's shown that ability, and that's rare in itself. So you got that. I could go on, and I know we don't need to say much about Micah Parsons. There are people arguing that he's the second best defensive player in the league behind Aaron Donald. That's how high people are on Micah Parsons.
And crazy enough, I didn't think they let him rush enough. Like, I felt like there were times where they were trying to sneak him back in the coverage a little too much. I want to see him get after that quarterback.
Well, so I get the allure of what Dan Quinn wants to do with him. Dan Quinn built that defense around Micah Parsons. This is a different scheme than Dan Quinn. He said that when he came to Dallas. It's a different scheme he's ever ran. Even versus when he was in Atlanta and when he was in Seattle as a defensive coordinator. Micah Parsons, they're not going to pigeonhole him and put him in one spot. Because if anything, that would be helping offensive coordinators out. Okay, we know Micah Parsons is going to be right there, but he's a guy that's so versatile. You can blitz him from different places. You can rush him off the edge. And people forget, outside of being the number 3 rated pass rusher behind Aaron Donald and TJ Watt, he was the number 1 rated off-ball linebacker. And 8 of his 13 sacks were blitzing from the linebacker spot. So even though he can be, obviously we've seen that he could be a great pass rusher coming off the line. I mean, he's every bit as dangerous as a linebacker. So why would you pigeonhole him? So I'm excited to see what plans or what packages Dan Quinn has in store for year 2. By the way, I can't say enough about Dan Quinn coming back to Dallas. That was like amazing. I thought that that day is unfortunately going to come soon, where Dan Quinn's not the leader of that defense, and Micah Parsons won't get moved around as much. He'll probably get. I hate to use the word pigeonhole, but he'll get put in more in one position. His impact will be a little bit minimized because he won't be moving around as much because every defensive coordinator isn't going to use him that way. Um, Leighton Van Esch actually towards the end of last year started to rebound, so you may see him have. He could possibly have a bounce back year. People forget he was a Pro Bowler as a rookie.
Word.
So he may bounce back. DeMarcus Lawrence is looking at being healthy. I'm a big DeMarcus Lawrence fan. He's lost weight. He cut his dreads off. I'm like, man, this brother trying to be faster.
Oh, did he?
He cut his dreads off. Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence cut his dreads off. Man, he looks.
Check him out.
He looks like Boise State DeMarcus Lawrence.
Check him out.
He looked like he shed about 8 to 10 pounds. So he looks like he's about 255, 256.
He leaned out, huh?
Leaned out, yeah. So once again, that's going to be the trajectory of what they are as a team. I still have doubts about, Mike. I'm not forgetting his name, Mike McCarthy.
Oh yeah.
I still have a lot of doubts about him. A lot of terrible clock management, a lot of bad in-game decisions. But you would hope.
See, playoff loss to San Francisco.
Yeah, clock management terrible. But once again, for me, my biggest disappointment in him is not being able to guide Kellen Moore through some of his struggles. If you're an offensive coach and you have a young, stalwart offensive coordinator who is taking his lumps, because that's all Kellen Moore is doing. He's just taking his lumps. Your job is to guide him through that. And he wasn't able to. Defensive coordinators were able to take things away that Kellen Moore liked to do. And Kellen Moore wasn't able, I say this all the time, he hasn't learned how to feature anybody in the offense yet. He hasn't learned how to build his offense. Maybe he does it this year around 1 to 2 players and basing everything off around that. So that is my biggest worry as far as kind of going back to, what about Dak and Zeke, or let's start with Zeke. Zeke it's kind of evident. He's the guy. He tore his PCL and still had 1,000 yards. I don't know a running back in the league that's going to do that. Tore his PCL, still had almost 1,300 yards from scrimmage, 12 to 13 touchdowns. And I say this all the time. I look at every other running back that's gotten paid, and he's earned his money more than those guys. It's just the truth. Like, once again, I looked at that top 10 running back list, and they had Christian McCaffrey above him, and Christian McCaffrey's barely played in 2 years.
That's true, but even in the games that he's played, it's like, he's clearly that guy.
But Christian McCaffrey,
and I agree, best ability is availability.
But you can't say that. Okay, so if you look at earlier in the season, Zeke, before he tore his PCL, he was actually number 1 or number 2 in the league in rushing. But once again, so how many? And this is my biggest question to you: how many guys? If you're let's step outside of Swan Don. Let's say this is Ira, the front office guy. All right. If you were signing a running back to a big payday, and it's funny because all these guys are signing contracts and all of them are getting hurt. We just saw like what's the kid from Green Bay can't stay healthy. He signed his contract. He's always hurt now.
Jones.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. Yeah.
Aaron Jones. Right. If a running back told you, "I'll always be on the field for you, even if I'm not always spectacular, I'll always be on the field for you. I'll be the best pass blocking running back in the game, and I'll play injured for you. Even if I'm hurt, I'll still be able to give you some production on the ground." Do you feel like that's a better investment than a guy that is spectacular, but there's a good opportunity that he may miss 5 to 10 games per year?
Obviously, like I said, the best ability is availability. I think that my thing is, and obviously, Zeke was dynamic those first few years, but I think because of his run style, I think that unfortunately it slowed him down. You know what I'm saying? It's starting to take its wear and tear on him. But that's the type of that's who Zeke is. You know what I'm saying? He's He's legit in every down back. Like he's legit, especially those first few years when he came in. He was legit a bell cow, as we like to call him, legit to the definition.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, I think it started to take its toll on him. And so now I don't know. He's just not that guy anymore, which is why I think that they're so insistent on getting Pollard, more touches too. You know what I'm saying? I think that's why I think this year, and not that I wouldn't be, if Zeke ended up with 1,000 yards again, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think you're gonna see kind of like and obviously you're a Cowboy guy, so you remember this. Kind of like when I think that was Marion Barber when they had the Thunder and Lightning. I think that was Marion Barber, rest in peace. And
don't say Felix Jones.
And Felix Jones. I think it's gonna be, but you get what I'm saying in a sense of how they were splitting carries, but they were still a formidable run game. I think that's kind of what you're gonna see this year.
Well,
and I know, and before you go, I know there's been rumblings that they're gonna try to get Pollard out of the backfield and get him maybe off in the slot or whatever, and have him play a little wide receiver. But I don't know. I think that's what you're gonna see.
Well, based off of my knowledge, because a lot of people don't know this, Tony Pollard he in high school he wasn't a running back; he was a receiver. He was actually recruited to Memphis as a receiver, and when he went there, he was a all-purpose, all-gadget guy, special teams receiver. He played running back, but he never got more than 35 carries in a season. So, what we're seeing Dallas doing this year, as a matter of fact, they're not tried to. He's actually maybe going to get a significant amount of snaps in the slot. He may be close to being their main guy in the slot, but obviously they have receivers there, so they're going to give him some carries in the backfield as well. And I think that that's evident in how much they believe in what Zeke can do when he's healthy. That they're not, okay, we're going to take the ball out of Zeke's hand. We're going to find other ways to get Tony Pollard the ball. To me, I always said the worst thing you can do for Tony Pollard is try to increase his running volume and try to put him, okay, he's our running back now. He's not built for that. There's a reason why he missed 2 to 3 games last year. Think about this. Zeke with a torn PCL played more games than Tony Pollard. And, everybody's clamoring and pounding the table for Tony Pollard to become the guy. He got less than half the carries, and still missed 2 to 3 games. That's because his body is telling him, this isn't who you are. You can't go from only getting 30, 35 kids. Your body has to build. It has to build up to be able to do those type of things. And there's a reason why. I give you another example. I talked about this before. Alvin Kamara, when Alvin Kamara was in college, he always split carries. As time went by, I think we had this conversation. As time went by, he's increased his carries last year. Last year was the most carries he's ever gotten in his life, and he missed 5 games, 4 or 5 games. So Tony Pollard, I don't believe that'll ever be who he is. I think he'll always be carries wise, maybe like somewhere between an 8 to 12 carry, but then you give him some stuff on the receiving end and special teams. But that is his trajectory. Now, as far as Zeke goes, if he can stay healthy, that's the only thing. If he can stay healthy, to me, you're going to get 12 to maybe even 1,300 yards rushing out of him. And you're still going to get 3 to 4, maybe even – it depends. They might not use him that much, but he's going to get minimum 300 yards receiving, 1 or 2 touchdowns there because he's a pretty good receiving back. So, to me, he's still very sorely that bell cow. It's just about keeping him healthy and an offensive line that's in front of him. Tyler Smith, I think, is going to pay immediate dividends because he's a mauler. Last year, they had a lot of question marks especially on the left side. Tyron Smith got hurt again, and you had Connor Williams and Connor McGovern trying to figure it out at left guard. So they weren't great offensive line-wise outside of Zach Martin. And then you had, obviously, they were doing flip-flops at right tackle. So it was a lot of instability on the offensive line. And Zeke did what probably no other running back in this league is going to do. And he said, I have a torn PCL, but it's not about me. It's about the team. And he played through it. And I think for me, I can't overlook because I don't think Derrick Henry will ever do that. I think if Derrick Henry has a torn PCL, he's watching football with me and you. I think any running back, it's just you won't see any running back that can offer you. I think Zeke, when healthy, there's an argument that he's probably one of the top 3 to 5 most valuable running backs in the league because he's going to be there, and obviously we know what he does as a blocker, which is unquestioned. He's the best at that. So, and then as a receiver, he's underrated as well. So I'm excited to see what they do. I think they're going to do their best to run as much through him. But Tony Pollard is so effective and so athletic. I don't think any increased snaps he get is from Zeke. I think it's because Tony Pollard is. I said that in year one. I said Tony Pollard is so talented. They're going to have to get him the ball. And as a matter of fact, that was Zeke. That was the year. That was 2019, the year Zeke signed his contract and he made the Pro Bowl that year. And I looked at Tony Pollard and I said, man, this guy's going to force his way to get some type of carries because he's just too talented. But
I was just going to ask, how many wins you see them getting this season?
Dallas 12 to 13. I think 12 to 13. They won 12. They won 12 wins. They had 12 last year. I could see them possibly improving because I think defensively they'll be a lot better. Here's the scary thought: if they're really able to establish.
So you think they'll fight for? I mean, 12, 13 wins. You think they'll fight for a
top 3? I think they'll be a top
1 or 2 seed.
Top, yeah, but I mean, you never know how the other teams look. I think they'll be a top 3, top 4 seed. Okay. But if they can establish a consistent running game, then with that defense and a very mature Dak Prescott, who I'll just end the Cowboys on this. I'll say this: I don't think I've ever seen anybody. They talk about that man like a dog on ESPN. Whew.
Dak.
Oh my God, they talk about him bad, man. Like it's almost to the point to where you're like, I don't think any quarterback deserves this, and I think he gets a little bit worse because he's a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're hearing Bart Scott saying he'll take Jameis Winston over Dak Prescott. Like this is the disrespect he gets.
Yeah, that's just asinine, as Stephen A would say.
But these are some of the things that people say about him, and I'm like, at what point what is America's obsession with knocking Dak Prescott off of a pedestal that, quite frankly, he's never been on? No one's ever talked about him as the future face of the NFL. He was just a guy that came in, made the most of his opportunities, but people always doubted him because he was like, okay, can he be a plus starter? Because it was a Zeke-led offense. But now that he's getting better, people are upset about that. I'm like, are you mad because he's getting better and he's improving? And then now, I posted that stuff in the sports chat. This Kyler Murray stuff, I shouldn't hear anybody complain about Dak Prescott anymore.
No. Look, in a couple years, that's going to look like a bargain.
It's a bargain now. He's dropped out of the top 5.
Yeah.
He's like the 6th or 7th highest paid quarterback now. Kyler Murray I didn't realize this. He's never won that division.
Oh, no.
He's never won his division, and he got a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. And watch this, something to look out for. Remember, when Dak Prescott signed his contract, how many years was it for?
Was it 4?
So if he keeps on
stand by,
exactly stand the hell by. He got one more big one in him. So I just want people to realize, like, for him, even if he never reaches the level of a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, which is unfair to try to compare guys to them because they're outstanding. He is a really good quarterback in this league, and to go from being, to go through the adversity that he went through, to even get to college, then he was able to make something out of nothing in Mississippi State with no offensive talent around him. He's a 4th-round draft pick. And obviously we've seen his rise since then, but you watch some of his throws. I challenge anybody. This isn't me being a homer. This is me being a football guy. Really watch his tape. See some of the throws that he's made some throws. He makes at least one throw every single week that maybe only about 3 or 4 other quarterbacks can make. And it's just from his accuracy has improved substantially. So just give him his flowers, give him his respect. At a minimum, he's a bottom top 10 guy. Even if he never gets better, he's just give a guy a little bit more respect, because I tell you, I listen. I'm at work and I'm listening to ESPN. I'm listening to all the other talk shows, man, and it gets pretty disrespectful.
No, I'm with you. I think for me, I think I told you this about a week or 2 ago. I think the Eagles go 10-7. I think the Cowboys go 10-7. I don't see 12 or 13 wins just because I think they lost so much. but I think they both go 10-7. But I do think the Cowboys win the tiebreaker, and for that reason, I do think that the Cowboys win this
With that,
division again.
10-7 with this defense.
Hmm?
With this defense, 10-7.
Yeah, I really do. I think 10-7. But yeah, I think both them and the Eagles probably go 10-7. But I think the Cowboys win the tiebreaker, and I think they win this division. But we'll see what happens, guys. That's the NFC East for you. It's gonna be interesting, man. As the season progresses, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of back and forth and a lot of banter. You're gonna see me getting at him about these Cowboys, and obviously he'll have a lot of material to use on me because my team is the lowly Chicago Bears.
Hey. Speaking of which, before we get to Chicago, I was going to tell you this. Chicago needs to put everything into put. I mean, any draft capital. They need to get DK Metcalf.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, you preaching to the choir. You're preaching to the choir. And then and you know what's crazy? If they can get DK Metcalf, I could see Darnell Mooney would kind of be like his Tyler Lockett.
Exactly.
And
I think I would
would love, but I would love that, But hey, the Bears so focused on moving out of Chicago, and that's another story for another day. That really infuriates me that they want to move out to the suburbs, but another story for another day. But all right, man, let's see. We got a couple minutes left. We got a couple more topics to get to, but we're gonna push through them real quick, man. We ain't gonna prolong it here. We're gonna get to a little. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I'm interested. Obviously hopping into some NBA action. I'm interested to hear what your thought is on this new contract that James Harden signed. Because he apparently I want to say he signed a 2-year deal.
2 years, 2 years, 68 million.
2 years, 68 million. And yeah, so he's basically what he's saying is he's committed to Philly. He's committed to kind of getting back in the lab and get back to the player that he was even just a year and a half ago. What are your thoughts on that contract and the impact that James Harden could have in Philadelphia moving forward?
Well, I've been critical of James Harden at times, but this is one of the times where I have to give him his flowers because this was a really stand-up move here. And the reason I say that is because, he had the player option for this year and he declined his player option, which would have gotten him 47 million for next season. But he declined it in order to work out a more team-friendly deal so that the Philadelphia 76ers can have more room to, make a move or two in free agency to kind of help the team get better. So he ends up declining that option and restructuring the deal with the Philadelphia 76ers for 2 years, 68 million. He'll get 33 million this year instead of the 47 that he declined. And then he'll get 35 million next year as he'll have the option to opt in again for the other 35 million next year. And then obviously one of the bigger pickups. I'm inclined to say they kind of overpaid him a little bit, but I guess some of the intangibles he brings, you can't put a price on. But they did pay PJ Tucker. They signed PJ Tucker in the offseason. I believe it was I do. Yeah. I believe it was a 3-year deal, but my only thing is, if I'm not mistaken, PJ Tucker's like 36, 37, already.
Yeah, right. But he's still,
I don't dislike the deal, but a lot of that money they gave to PJ Tucker.
Okay.
But said all that to say, I got to give him credit where it's due. You know what I'm saying? For a guy who his MO is, finding his way out of situations and giving up on situations. Now we've actually seen him commit to, restructuring his contract, getting a more team-friendly deal to help his team better make some moves and be relevant and maybe possibly make a finals run. As far as James Harden himself, though, I don't think we'll ever see that Houston James Harden again.
Done?
I don't think we'll ever see that guy.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
Okay, well, even if we don't see that guy, can we see James Harden when he got to Brooklyn?
Here's my thing. I don't know. I don't know the James Harden that we're used to. I don't think we'll ever see that guy again. However,
Jesus,
I
wow.
think that for this Philadelphia 76ers team,
He can
he
be a
doesn't
guy
have to be that guy.
because
I
he has
think
Joel Embiid.
exactly. I think that if he can be a 18, 19 point per game scorer, 10, 11 assists, really be that facilitator that he's more than capable of being, then I think he can be just just as valuable to this Philadelphia 76er team. Because obviously we know Joel Embiid, this is his team. They'll go as far as he takes them. But now, quiet as it's kept, he has a couple other guys who could possibly get 18 or 20 a game themselves. Tyrese Maxey took a huge step forward next year, and I like to last year, and I like to think that had a lot to do with James Harden getting there.
Mhm.
But now it kind of moved Tyrese Maxey off the ball and let him be more, even though he's a combo guard, I think he's a little more of a shooting guard. I think he's a little more of an aggressive scoring guard, and having James Harden there allows Tyrese Maxey that freedom to do that. And then Tobias Harris could be an 18 or 20 point per game scorer. They re-signed, they got Shake Milton back. Shake Milton had went to Memphis, and then he came back to the Philadelphia 76ers now. They still got Matisse Thybulle is one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. We're talking about an all-defensive first, second team guy, one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. Obviously, I just told you they signed PJ Tucker. I mean, and then another quiet signing, another shooter. They signed Daniel House Jr.
Mhm.
And we seen him and the rapport that he had with James Harden when they were in Houston a few years back, especially in that during that bubble season.
So you think that since obviously he's shown some commitment to that organization, that they're also doing their part in trying to put in the best support gas around him?
I think so because I don't think Philly is done. I think you're gonna see them, sign, get another free agent or two in there to really help this team really be a contender in the East because believe it or not, I think they can be. I think they're probably a top 4 team in the East.
Right. When healthy.
The East and that top 4 is going to be a gauntlet.
Yeah, it is.
Obviously, Miami, Milwaukee, Boston, Philly is going to be a gauntlet.
Right.
But I think that they're
Brooklyn if they
right
stay
there.
together. Brooklyn if they stay together.
Brooklyn if they can stay together and healthy.
True.
Together and healthy. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I like I said, I criticize him a lot, but I got to give him credit where it's due, man. He really, this move, him declining that option and restructuring his contract, it really showed that he's really trying to buy into this Philadelphia 76er organization. And then obviously he got his boy Daryl Morey's there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that had a lot to do with it too, man. Him and Daryl Morey, they love each other. So,
and this may sound a little outrageous, but part of me feels like he looks at not only where he is, but he looks at where a Kevin Durant is and what their legacies are becoming. And maybe he feels like, even though it's a little late, that maybe he can change the narrative of that a little bit, before it's all said and done.
True.
Because right now, we already know, like, hopefully he can stay, but Kevin Durant doesn't look very good right now, in the eyes of a lot of basketball circles and both current and prior players.
True, and I mean, one difference between Durant and James Harden is that Durant has a ring.
Right.
Despite no matter what, when those two guys, when their careers are done, despite all you may think or say about Kevin Durant, one thing that you're gonna say is that he's a champion. And to date, right now, you can't say that about James Harden. James Harden is still trying to. It is. He's still trying to get that ring. So I mean, I really think for the first time in his career, I really think you really seen him really make an effort to buy into an organization. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Daryl Morey is there now. So yeah, man, I mean, I really, he really gained a lot of respect from me with this move.
Yeah.
He really did, man. And I'm absolutely surprised that he did this as well. Really gained a lot of respect from me.
It was out of character for him.
It was because, like I said, I mean, the MO on him has been that, he's just, he's the type to just hurry up and, if it's not going his way or when he gets ready to, okay, he'll just quit on the team and kind of force his way out of a situation. But now we've seen him in a situation. Not only did he stick around, but he showed that he was unselfish because 9 players out of 10 are gonna opt in on that money. We're talking about who are the type of guys that we see we're talking about like a Tom Brady, a Tim Duncan, guys who for years have took less for the team. And now we've seen, of all people, a guy like James Harden just do that. But it's major, man. He got a lot of respect from me.
But I also think it has to do with that organization and that culture and foundation that they have there. To me, even though Philly has some challenges, to me, their culture seemed a lot lighter. And they seemed a lot more cohesive after Ben Simmons left. And I think that James Harden and Joel Embiid actually coexist very, very well. They're probably a lot closer behind closed doors than we really know. And they probably get each other. So I think Joel Embiid was probably a big reason why he even took that. He's like, look, man, if I can do my best to support this guy, I believe we can win a championship. And we all know Joel Embiid is a championship caliber player.
So, yeah, absolutely. We're talking about a top 5 player in this league, realistically.
Yeah, on both ends of the floor, right?
On both ends, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why I think he looked at the situation. I think it just makes too much sense. He looked at the situation. He's getting older. He hasn't won a championship. He's with an all-world player in Joel Embiid. They have a very solid roster. It's not like they're devoid of talent. They actually have some nice pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if he can just help out, take a little bit less money and possibly get him one more championship and right off into the sunset. Look, maybe commit to his body more than he ever fucking has in his life.
Let's hope so, man. And word is he's been in the gym of late though.
Yeah.
So
which is good.
Let's hope he does, man.
He's not with Lil Baby touring.
Well, I'll say this, Okay, he been in the gym, but listen, if nothing else,
he gonna party.
We know he gonna get to a strip club.
He gonna blow off some steam, huh?
Okay, he gonna find his way to a strip club. If nothing else, let's just hope he's going to the gym before he hit the strip club.
Word. All right. So last topic we had. I know we talked about owners. It was a popular owner, Joe Lacob of the Golden State Warriors. He got fined $500,000 for making some spicy comments against the collective bargaining agreement. Basically, he said he didn't like the structure of the current luxury tax because he feels like his team is getting unfairly penalized for having these homegrown players, which is an argument I've been making for years. Maybe not luxury tax wise, but people get mad at Golden State, but they draft and develop well.
And I think that's why he's upset too, is because, and with a lot of people, a narrative is starting to be made, with some of the hierarchies in the NBA and some of the other owners. A narrative is starting to be made that he's kind of like, he's just buying players. He's just buying a championship. And I mean, part of that is because, if I'm not mistaken, like how do I say this? He paid his roster, like as far as players and salaries, he paid out almost $200 million as far as players and salaries this year. I think the number was like $199,900,000 or something.
He said, but he says they're only $40 million over luxury tax though.
And this is how he comes to that because, so like, which FYI, that number was the largest in history.
Right.
Okay. Now the salary cap number, which by the way is increasing again in this next coming season, but the salary cap number I believe was only about 123 million. So he ended up about 70 some million over, but that's because he was over the salary cap. He had to pay a luxury tax, which was the other 30 or so million. So like he said, he's actually only about 40 million over, but the luxury tax was like an extra 30 million because he's over the salary cap. And the reason he's over is because, if I'm not mistaken, he has 3 max contracts. I think Steph has a max, Clay has a max, and then Draymond Green doesn't have an NBA max, but he has the max that he can get, that he's allowed to be paid.
Does he have what you
I
call
agree with him.
Yeah.
I agree with him 100% because if you look at this roster, you know, like you said, it's not like he's going out here buying guys and buying players, going on free agency. If you look at this roster,
these are guys:
Steph, Clay, Draymond Green, Kayvon Looney, Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. All of those guys, they draft James Wiseman,
drafted, developed. I mean, what's his name? The guard was in the G League of two.
Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole was in the G League, not too long ago.
Yeah, these are all guys that they drafted. Exactly, these are all guys that they drafted, and these are all guys that you're going to see play substantial minutes and substantial time for them next year. And those are guys that he drafted, but he's being penalized. Say, especially in the instance where a Steph, a Clay, a Dre, who are getting the max, he's being penalized a luxury tax because he's trying to pay to keep guys that he drafted.
Right.
And I agree with him. I mean, it is wrong. I think in the next collective bargaining agreement, and I think that's why he got fined because he spoke on some of the things that are going on with the next collective bargaining agreement. But I think they need to try to find some sort of way so that there is no penalty for that. Because I mean that's wrong, especially for a guy in his specific situation. It's unfair that you're punishing them because their scouts are phenomenal at what they do.
We could argue that the two teams that just seen each other in the finals are probably some of the best drafting and developing teams in the NBA right now.
Oh, absolutely, man. The front office in Golden State is phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's there now, but it started when Jerry West was there, and he has a great eye for talent. And then in Boston, obviously Brad Stevens is solid, and they got Danny Ainge, and Danny Ainge is proving that he has a great eye for talent, nor is he afraid to take a chance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you spot on that. I mean, you got two of the better front offices in the league right there. But I agree with Joe Lacob 100%, man. They can't punish him because he's going out there he's just drafting better than everybody else. And he has to pay his guys.
Has to, especially guys that you draft, you believed in them, you drafted them, you developed them, and
they've earned it.
They have earned it. Especially looking at the storm that those guys have been through over the last 2 to 3 years. Being hurt.
See the league, and like he said in that interview, the league is just so concerned with the league being fair, and what they're looking at and seeing is another dynasty, and then they're seeing the way that he's doing it because, like I said, he's drafting these guys. So Golden State has such a beautiful mixture of experience and guys to carry the organization now, and youth and talent and guys that are gonna pick up the mantle and keep it going in the future. And they see that happening right before their eyes.
And then the funny part is, if they're not drafting and developing guys, they're signing cast-offs from other teams that nobody.
Exactly, man.
Because because Andrew Wiggins has literally revived his career in Golden State.
He made the All-Star team for the first time this year. So it's crazy, man. But hopefully in the next bargaining agreement, they figure something out so that teams won't be punished. And I think, like he said, it's that luxury tax that really upsets him. The fact that, okay, he'll go over to keep his guys, but then you're going to tax me for going over to keep guys that I drafted.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Look,
all in the name of trying to keep the league fair when they're just not doing as great a job as I am. You can't punish me for drafting well.
Can we be real about this? Before he made these comments, he told his accountant, "Hey, set aside $500,000."
Can we be even more real about this? He probably didn't even know it was gone.
Gone.
Can you imagine? Yeah, I wish I had that type of money. I get $500,000. Man, just all right. Give it to him tomorrow.
$500,000 fine. Hey, take care of that.
Exactly, man. But Yeah, man.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of interesting stuff going on. More to come in the basketball world, but obviously, the NFL is just going to be ramping up. So we're balls deep, pretty much in the training camp. It's started, so we'll be
Mm-hmm.
covering a lot of that, and obviously we'll see what division we cover. We're back to the AFC next week, and yeah, it's just a lot more exciting stuff to talk about. I had fun today.
Oh yeah, man. Another wonderful, wonderful episode. As always, y'all be on the lookout and tune in and check out my boy the Break Room Breakdown. You know what I'm saying? Um, as always, like I said, every Saturday, Twitter Spaces. We got the Rooted in Sports community.
And it went down last Saturday. We were going for like 6 or 7 hours. I'm like, bro, I gotta get off.
Man,
I gotta look. I
hey
gotta,
man, y'all be acting up, bro.
especially Kevin. You know that's your spirit animal.
Man, look. Listen. I don't know what be crazy. You know what? I'm gonna talk to you off live about that. But I don't know what be crazier, that or the group
Right?
chat.
Oh.
I'm not gonna say no names.
Hey,
We'll discuss that offline.
hey guys, we have a sports group chat, and when I tell you, you could be at the grocery store with your lady or something like that. You could be
I
at a
swear.
look. You could be at a romantic dinner. You'll look. You be like, damn, they acting a
You'll
goddamn
lose you'll lose all concentration talking about did you
Look,
like
you could be with the kids. You could be anywhere.
seriously, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, man. So yeah, man, y'all definitely go ahead and go ahead and try to hop on Saturday Rooted in Sports community on Twitter Spaces. That's 12 o'clock Pacific, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, 3 o'clock Eastern. Y'all go ahead and hop on there, man. It gets going, man. Be heard. That's really for any of the viewers. That's really the place for you guys. Y'all can hop on and give your 2 cents freely. You know what I'm saying? And it goes down in there, man.
And talk your shit. As long as you don't get too disrespectful, because sometimes we gotta hit that mute button as hosts. But outside of that, it gets pretty fun. It's just people that are just passionate about sports.
Word. And yeah, man, I think that's it, right?
That's it, man. We had another good episode in the books. It's funny, every episode me and Swan go into, we like, dang, we got these topics this and that third, because we got a 2-hour show, man. We got a 2-hour slot we got to fill. We always talk about it, and then at the end of the day,
and look up and been on went smooth past the 2 hours.
Exactly, every week. So, yeah. So it is definitely a lot of fun. We look forward to next week. We'll have some good stuff lined up for you guys. Until then, hey, be safe. And if you guys have any topics, anything you guys want us to address, just let us know.
Yeah, definitely reach out, man. And yeah, man, much love. God bless. People be safe out here, man. These people are crazy, man. It's so much, mass shootings and active shooters, and it's just a lot going on. So, man, y'all be safe, be aware, be careful of your surroundings, man. Don't be nowhere you ain't gotta be. You know what I'm saying? And keep your head on the swivel, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, much love to everybody. God bless. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Peace and soul.